let me tell you, जो music है, I know, बड़े सारे लोग वो एक piece सुन के ही काफी ज़्यादा, excited हो गए थे. That is by the one and only A.R. Rahman साहब. उनके लिए भी जोरदार तालियां हो जाएं. And now, may I invite on stage, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shubhashish Sarkar from Reliance Entertainment to tell us something about his association, Reliance Entertainment's association with Partition 1947.
So, I think few weeks from now, we'll be all celebrating the 17th independence of this country. And while you have been explaining that while Independence Day is the greatest celebration moment in this country, at the same point of time, that period, that era, was an wound in many lives, many generations.
Of course.
We got associated with this film probably 1.5 couple of years back when these proposals came to us. And for us, we are a filmmaking company. We make different kind of films, but very rarely some subjects come to us where we take the opportunity not only for making a film, but to be a part of the history or to show our respect to that part of the history for the years to come. In our mind, Partition 1947 by Gurinder is that kind of event. So filmmakers, companies across the globe like Pathé, Reliance Entertainment, BBC, Engineers, BFI, all of them joined hands together to make this historic film. And I think probably I'm not the correct person to talk about the film or talk about this journey. The person who have worked on it, researched on it, spends years, given her own own facts and own knowledge and own historical parts. I'll take this opportunity and request Gurinder Chadha, who is among us this evening. Please come here, and she will be the best person to share.
Super. Thank you so much, Mr. Sarkar. Welcome, Gurinder.
Thank you, Shubhashish.
That was a wow trailer that we just saw.
It was wow for me to see it in Hindi. That was very wow. I loved it, loved it.
We also loved it, right? We did, right? We all loved it. There's this thing that I'd like to ask you. इससे पहले कि हम आगे बढ़ें, मुझे please बताएं, whenever you've made a film, there has been a social message in it with a quirk. हमेशा कुछ रहता है वो एक. लेकिन with this kind of subject, कितना reservation था कि यार, how do I deal with this? Was there any kind of reservation that you had?
Well, all the films I make in some way are about me and autobiographical and about my own story. And this film is also very personal. Right. My ancestors are from Punjab now, which is Pakistan, that part. So growing up in England, I didn't have an ancestral homeland to call my own. So the shadow of partition has been with me throughout my whole life. So for me, this is a personal film, but it also does have a quirk, because what I realized in doing the research was that the history that I had been taught about why partition happened was totally a lie, complete lie. We had been told that partition happened as a reaction to us fighting with each other, whereas my research shows that partition was definitely a political act. It jaan bujh ke hua tha for certain interests.
Right. I'm sure, as I also said earlier, this is based on true events.
Yes.
There are 2 books जिसको adapt किया गया है. Please tell us something about those books.
So the first book we optioned was Freedom at Midnight, which is the sort of people talk about as the seminal book on partition, written by Larry Collins and Dominic Lapierre. And for many years, this was my father's favorite book. It's still on the shelf, dog-eaten, you know. And it was based on lots of long interviews with Mountbatten himself. So it's quite biased, you know, in that way. But I had optioned that book. I had started wanting to make this film because I went to Pakistan. What happened was in 2008, I did a BBC documentary which was looking at my roots, and we started in England went to Kenya, where I was born, came to India, went to Hardwar, found out where my ancestral village was, and then went to Pakistan. And in the documentary, I say, okay, I'm here, but I'm not going to call this country Pakistan. I'm going to call it pre-partitioned India, because that's what it means to me. And you see it in the documentary, it's on YouTube. But when I got to the town, all these people came out and they threw flowers at me and they gave me a shawl and they said, Aap hamari beti hai, ji aaya nu. And they said, this is your home. We're so happy you've come. So it was a very moving experience for me. Right. And I found my grandfather's house, and there were many refugees there from India to there. So it was at that point I felt I wanted to do something about the people's partition. Wow. So that was the beginning of the film. But then, once we had started doing our research, I was at a reception with Prince Charles. And I told Prince Charles, I'm making a film about your favorite uncle. And he was very excited. And he said, what are you basing it on? And I said, Freedom at Midnight. And he said, no, you need to read some other books. And he said, please get Narinder Singh Sarila's book, which I hadn't heard of. Went to 5 bookshops, found it, was mind-blowing. And of course, Narinder Singh Srila was a diplomat, an Indian government official. Right. He was High Commissioner to Paris for 20 years. He was ADC to Mountbatten in Rashtrapati Bhavan, in 1948. And he had been in the British Library in London in 1997, and he was sitting there writing a book about the Maharajas of India when an Indian lady, Mrs. Ghosh, who was a librarian, was given these papers, top secret documents, and was told to index them. And she saw the papers, read the significance. She went to Narendra, said, Sir, I think you should look at these papers. He ditched the book he was writing and wrote Shadow of the Great Game. So his Indian intervention against all the odds in the British Library, where these documents were then uncovered. And so we took that and turned it into the movie.
Wow, that's so much to learn from, and कितना सुन के एकदम ऐसा लग रहा है हाँ यार एक as if you it's a storytelling session जहाँ आप हमको कहीं और ले गए with you.
Sorry मैंने हिंदी में नहीं बोला.
नहीं बिल्कुल अच्छा किया आपने जैसे बोला हमें बहुत अच्छा लगा.
मगर जब मैं हिंदी में बोलूँगी आपको कोई समझ नहीं आना था जो कुछ मैं बोल रही हूँ.
जितना आपने जैसे बोला. So what we'll do is a director's vision जिसको उतारा है बहुत ही खूबी के साथ इस पर्दे पे एक्टर्स ने, उनमें से एक दो वेरी गॉर्जियस हुमा कुरैशी इज हियर, उनके लिए जोरदार तालियां हो जाएं प्लीज. ये जोरदार कहते हैं आप लोग. जी
थैंक यू. हुमा ने बहुत साथ दिया हमको पिक्चर में. शी वाज अमेजिंग एंड I didn't know Huma, and I came to India and auditioned several actresses, but Huma just jumped out at me. I have to say, in the same way that Keira Knightley did for Bend It Like Beckham. I didn't know Keira Knightley either, but Huma had that very natural quality, very feisty, and plus she looked very hutkuti Punjabi, I liked that. And I'm so pleased because all during the shooting, she would question me a lot, and I liked that. Maybe not at the time, but
definitely not at the time.
But she really, her contribution was fantastic.
I like the way she's listening to this. She's like, "What is Gurinder about to say about me?"
Yeah, she's a tricky one. You never know what she's gonna say. So I have to keep telling her, "You can't say this."
Right. You can say a lot of things जो कि हम सुनना चाहते हैं यहाँ पे about your role, the preparations. लेकिन उस सबसे पहले, Partition 1947. How do you relate to this subject?
Well, I think as Indians growing up in India, everyone relates to the partition. We all have, our parents or grandparents have experienced something. तो partition जैसी word आप सुनते हो कहीं ना कहीं एक emotional connection तो आ ही जाता है. और मेरी family का भी है. Thankfully painful नहीं है क्योंकि कोई भी किसी की भी loss of life नहीं था. But घर छोड़ना या अपने घर वालों या loved ones के बारे में चिंता करना कि वो safe हैं, घर वापस आएंगे या नहीं, it's not a good feeling. And the fact that so many people were forced to leave their homes, they didn't want to. And that choice should not be given to any human being. किसी भी इंसान को force किया जाए कि अपना घर छोड़ के चला जाए for a political reason, I think it's not right. And what I loved about this script when I read it, it's such a I mean, of course, there's the politics and there's all the research that Gurinder and her husband Paul have put in the film, but it's so human, and it talks about something very simple, about humanity, about love, and that's what I loved about the film. And all the characters are flawed, they're passionate, they have ambitions, they have hopes, they have dreams, and you sort of go like कि आज के दुनिया में भी हम देखें तो ये आज भी हो रहा है ना, तो हमने क्या 70 years से कुछ सीखा है, मतलब जो हम क्या वो same mistakes बार बार ही करते रहेंगे. So I think in a small way it's all of us have tried to say that.
It's a
Very well said.
It's a very contemporary film, even though it is set 70 years ago. जब हम शुरू किया था फिल्म लिखने के लिए, Obama was president. सीरिया में कोई जंग नहीं था, और यूरोप में ब्रेक्सिट भी नहीं था. कौन सोच सकता था जब ट्रम्प president बनेगा? Who would have thought of Brexit? Nobody would have thought of these things when we started making the film. So during the course of the film, the world went ulta, basically. And I think that now I was in Australia last month, and we released the film there. People really loved the film in Australia because they felt it was very modern. And also in Australia, they have their own border policies, their own divisions, you know. So I think the film is a very Indian story in its heart, but actually it's a very global story because partition, refugees, this is the state of our world today. Politicians will always try and divide us because it's easier to rule us if we're divided.
Right. Australia को छोड़ते हैं, हमारे देश में भी I'm sure ये बहुत धमाका मचाएगी film. The name is Partition 1947. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's over to you. आप लोग के जो भी सवाल हैं आप पूछ सकते हैं. But before that, we'll have a quick photo op. So I'll take the mics. है ना? Yeah, I'll just take. जी.